and welcome to Code Soul. For those of you who are new, and welcome back to our regular members. I'm Beej. This is Amra.
Yep.
We'll introduce ourselves more in a minute. But today we're going to do an introduction to AWS, Amazon Web Services. For today's event, you do need to be on Discord to get a link to get login information. That QR code is the link, or you can just type the link that's next to it. Please do that. Please do that. I'm delaying to give you time to do that. But if you're not able to grab this, the link to our Discord is also in the Meetup or Facebook or LinkedIn event info. You don't need to go through and create a whole account. You can just join as a guest. That's good enough. And we'll share that in a minute. So, should probably click on the right thing. There we go. Okay. So, quick disclaimer. This is knowledge that we have gathered through our work, and maybe some additional research to support this event specifically. We are not experts. We have not written books on this stuff. At least I haven't. You haven't either?
I haven't.
He's not. Okay. We have not written books on this stuff. So, don't be like, oh, Beej, you're wrong. We're like, we're human, okay? But this should be a good point to get started from, and we will do actual work with this. So, let's do introductions.
I want to fix this.
Oh, oops. Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, wrong monitor. Yeah, did a good job.
Yeah, hi all. My name is Emre. So, I mostly work with financial companies, such as banks and insurance companies. And as you can see, I try a lot of things like backend, UI designer, DevOps, software architect as well. So my current position is I'm a freelancer. I'm a consultant right now. I mainly focus on AWS and Azure. So I think this for me.
And I'm Beej. I'm currently a product manager, so my full-time job is not to write code anymore. But I have experience doing back-end, DevOps, data engineering-esque stuff, a little bit of game development, and a lot of operations. I've worked at a bunch of companies, including I work at Lunit now, and that's also where we're at. Thank you, Lunit, for sponsoring this. And let's dive in then. So that we just say this so you know like who you're talking to and have some faith that we know what we're talking about. So for today, we will go over a bit of basics, like what is the cloud. We're assuming that people here have no knowledge of any of this stuff, okay? We'll go over why you might want to choose AWS, because there are other options. Then we'll get into the more technical side of things. What is a VPC, and why do you need it? And what is EC2, like how do I set up a server? And then we're actually going to go through and we're going to do this together. We have an AWS account. We have users made for you guys. You can log in and you will set up your own web server on the internet. And that will be done by the end of today. So be ready. It's going to be cool. And you'll be able to go make your own AWS account and do this on your own as well if you want later. So, any questions on the agenda before we get started? Cool. Quick note. When I ask if there are questions, I wait an uncomfortably long amount of time. That is intentional because sometimes people need a moment to like think of the question and then like muster up the courage to actually say something. Okay? So please just be patient with the awkwardness. All right, so what is the cloud? Well, there is no cloud. It's just a marketing thing of nonsense. Who here has worked with data center stuff before? Okay, cool. Not very many.
How do you define data center related stuff?
Have you connected to a computer in a data center of an organization where the organization managing it is the organization you're a part of?
Yeah,
okay, there we go.
physically.
Yeah, physically. Yeah. Okay, cool. So very few. For those of you who have data center experience, it's just Amazon has their own data centers. They create like a sandbox for you, and you just connect to that stuff. That's all the cloud is. It's not anything fancy. For those of you who haven't worked with a data center before, basically these cloud providers like Amazon have a bunch of computers, and they allow you to use them. That's all it is. It's not magic. Okay? So the cloud is basically a set of hidden physical computers, like physical, like, metal and rubber and whatnot, and silicone computers. And is anyone not familiar with virtualization? Okay, I was going to say, there have to be a few hands here. Okay. Virtualization is the idea of you have some physical computer, and then you can run one or more kind of software computers in this computer, right? So I have this Windows machine. On this Windows machine, I could run 10 more Windows machines, or 5 Linux machines and 5 Windows machines inside this physical computer. Now those virtual computers, they don't know that they're not on a physical computer. I mean, they kind of do, but but this allows you to take one physical compute power and divide it into multiple computers from a user's perspective. And that's what these cloud providers do, okay? So they have these big giant physical servers, and they chop them up into virtual servers and let you use them, okay? Now, for the end user, basically us, this means we can scale, because these cloud providers have hundreds of computers in these data centers, way more than they need, and so they rent out time on these computers, and you can add virtual machines, you can remove virtual machines, you can scale in and out as much as you need. This is important for companies because there's no need for something like capacity management. I mentioned that these cloud providers have hundreds of computers. That comes with a cost. You need people to manage those computers, people to replace parts. You have to pay for power, for cooling, all this kind of stuff. These cloud providers do that for you. Okay, so it's a huge, huge, huge kind of delegation of work. And also there's additional software and services. They don't just rent computers, right? Amazon has like a machine learning service or a data engineering service or a container management service, right? All these different services that are usually just built on top of their virtualization infrastructure. And then there's access control, which is a big, big, big thing. For those of you who have worked with data center stuff, you know access control is a big, giant, terrifying, important issue. But with cloud providers, they just do it for you. You say, I want a user, and then they handle all the stuff of like, you can only work with your infrastructure, and then you can do your own permission management inside that infrastructure. Okay? So far, so good? Questions? Cool. So why are we talking about AWS today? It's the most popular. It is a bit more expensive than some other cloud providers. The big three are Amazon, Google, and Microsoft Azure. But there's also smaller ones like Oracle has one that's pretty cheap. There's Linode. In Korea, there's also Naver Cloud. There's a whole bunch of different cloud providers, but AWS is the big popular one. So why is it that we want to focus on the popular one? Well, if a lot of companies are using it, that means they have jobs, right? So if you want to get a job doing cloud stuff, you know, it makes sense. And also, there's a lot of educational materials. The more people using something, the more people creating content about that thing for you to go learn from. Okay, so AWS is a bit easier to learn than other things, not necessarily because it's an easier product or like organized more easily, but just because there's more information about it. So that's one of the reasons we're focusing on it. Also, if you've ever worked with AWS online support, it's very good, very, very good. They also have really nice tooling for it. They have their own CLI utility. They have Terraform providers. I think they even have some Ansible providers, all sorts of other stuff. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. The learning curve is actually not so bad. For those of you with data center experience, it's a little bit weird. There's a lot of stuff that's abstracted away. When you're like, in the data center, I would do this. And Amazon's like, we don't even have that concept. But for people who have not worked with data centers, it's a little bit easier to sort out. It's designed for people who don't manage their own data centers. Okay? And then there are a lot of services. And I mean a lot of services. So like, this looks like a lot, right? Like, you know, that's maybe like 40 or 50. I don't know. I can't count. I make computers count. But that's not even all of them. Amazon has over 200 services. It is absolutely nuts. And I just realized I'm not using my notes, so I'm hoping I'm not missing anything. Okay. But today we're only going to cover 2 of these services. Okay. And just to give you kind of an idea of the scope, we're going to spend these 2 hours covering the cloud and these 2 services, and there's like 200, right? No one is an expert in all of AWS. If they say, I know all of AWS, either they don't know what they're talking about, or they're assuming that you understand that to mean like the main services, which might be like VPC stuff, EC2 stuff, maybe some EKS, ECS stuff. If you don't know those acronyms, don't worry about it. Okay? So that's all the kind of general cloud stuff before we get into these specific 2 services we're covering today. Any questions about the idea of a cloud and why AWS and why we might want to use the cloud? Fixing my posture. Cool. So, what is a VPC and why is it important? This is one of the 2 main services we're going to talk about today. First off, VPC is short for Virtual Private Cloud. The virtual part is, remember we talked about virtualization? That's the virtual part. Okay. And so one thing to be aware of too, the physical server that your stuff is on likely also has other people's stuff on it. But you'll never know that because the virtualization and the access control, they keep everything separate. Okay. So they do this via virtual networks and virtual servers. And then why private? Because, you know, it's all separate. You're never going to see someone else's stuff, okay? Or if you do, Amazon has a big giant problem and is probably going to lose a bunch of money. So that's kind of the private part. And then cloud is marketing nonsense. It's someone else's data center, okay? Now VPC, in practice, is an isolated network, okay? You can create multiple VPCs. You can have multiple isolated networks. Is anyone not very comfortable with the meaning of network in this context? It is okay to admit you don't know things here. That's why we're here. Okay, cool. So, a network, you all probably have internet at home, right? You probably have a Wi-Fi router, right? That is a network. If other computers want to connect to that, by default, they cannot do that. Your network is a collection of devices capable of computing that can talk to each other. That's all a network is, okay? So, you know, we have like the Lunit guest Wi-Fi here, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot something really important. Is anyone not on the guest Wi-Fi? Okay, everyone got the Wi-Fi? You're not on guest Wi-Fi? Jay, can you help him out? Thank you. Oh, it's on there.
Oh, Dan, it's on the wall.
Yeah, I forgot they did that. Thank you.
Reverse the wall, people.
Yeah, we were like, for 6 or 8 months we were having to tell people, and then they finally put these up. It's like, oh yeah, thank you. Right. So all of us on this Wi-Fi network, we're all part of the same network. Our computers should be able to talk to each other across this network. Okay? And a network is stuff that can talk to each other. That's it. So when we talk about the internet, it is a very, very literal name. Inter means like connecting different things or traveling between things, right? And net is short for network. It's just a whole bunch of networks that are talking to each other. That's the internet, okay? So your home router acts as kind of an access point for your network to talk to other networks or the internet, okay? So that's what we mean when we say network. When we say isolated network in this context, this VPC, this isolated network, Nothing else can talk to it unless you configure it to do that, much like your home router. Does that make sense? Cool. Now, really nice part is, also with this isolated network, you choose your own IP address range. Does anyone not know what an IP address is? Whew, okay, great. I didn't want to have to explain that. So in addition to this broad isolated network, you can divide it into subnetworks. And these subnetworks can basically have their own address space, their own IP address space, and can allow certain traffic in and out. So you can create like private subnetworks, which cannot get to the internet, and create public subnetworks, which can. And you can have them talk to each other if you want, or not, however you want to configure it, okay? So your big VPC isolated network, you can divide into smaller networks. For example, let's say you're building a web application. You have your front end, the part that users will see, this part that will render in their browser, right? You want that to be in a public network, right? Then maybe your front-end server delegates to your backend, and your backend has all the crazy business logic. You want that in a private network that only your public network can talk to, right? And then maybe you have a database to store all the data for your backend. You also want that in a private network. And this way, the internet cannot see all your data and all your juicy logic for your application. They only see the front end. And then your front end does the talking, right? This is a very, very common usage of subnetworks, okay? If that didn't make a whole lot of sense, don't worry too much about it. We're going to demonstrate stuff. And also very importantly, a VPC acts as a scope for cloud resources, okay? When you create a server, for example, it must be in a VPC, okay? If you create a database, it must be in a VPC, right? It provides a place for stuff to live, okay? Because if you make a computer and it can't talk to anything else, in the modern day and age, that's not a very useful computer. So you have to put it in a VPC so it can talk to stuff. Now, this is also very nice to keep things organized. For example, if you're in a large company, you may want different departments within the organization to have their own VPC, or more likely different products to have their own VPCs, so you can keep that traffic and data and all that stuff separate. And it's really nice for security. Security is managed at the VPC level. Stuff cannot get in or out of that VPC unless you say it can. But usually, stuff within a VPC can talk freely. Okay? Does that all sound good? Now, quick note. These bullet points are very short. This is my presentation style. I gave you a whole bunch of information that's more detailed. You're like, how am I going to get this later? Like, there is the recording. Also, in the presentation slides that we will share with you guys, the notes have basically everything I said. Okay, so don't panic if you're like, I have to remember all of it. It's going to be okay. All right? So questions?
The router and the gateway, those are virtual as well.
Correct. Good question. For purposes of the recording, the question was, the router and gateway, are those virtual as well? Yes. Yes, they are. Other questions? Cool. So, now when we talk about what is a VPC, it's not just one monolithic thing. It's composed of several parts. First off, kind of above the VPC level, we have the region level. In AWS and most cloud providers, they divide all their services into regions. Okay, so there's the Asia Northeast AP2 region, I think is the sole region for AWS. I might be getting it confused with Google. And then you have like the US Central 1 region, which is I think Ohio or something, right? And so AWS has these different regions where they store stuff. Why is that important? Well, you know, light is only so fast. Speed of light is not instantaneous. It does have an actual speed. And so for data to travel from one side of the world to the other takes time. But if you just put your server on the other side of the world, it's way faster. Okay? So this is why we have regions to distribute our stuff. And a VPC must be in one region. A VPC cannot span multiple regions. Okay? So you have to pick where your VPC lives. Now you can have multiple VPCs and you can have them talk to each other. but a VPC has to be in a region. Okay. But within a VPC, you have availability zones. Availability zones also correspond to physical locations. An availability zone is basically a data center, a physical place with physical servers. Okay? So within the US Central 1 region, they're going to have US Central 1A, US Central 1B, US Central 1C, right? I might be getting this confused with Google, but run with it. And each of those is a separate data center. So this is important because if one of those data centers explodes or catches fire or something, if you have your VPC spanning multiple data centers, your stuff is okay. Sound good? Cool. So does anyone remember how, like, maybe 6 months or so ago, there was a fire at a Cacao data center? Yeah, that pissed me off because that's like data center management 101, right? You set up multiple data centers and you have your stuff redundant across data centers. Cacao's supposed to be the good company here. They're supposed to. Okay, sorry, not going to rant. Very upset at that. When you build stuff and is production ready, make sure it spans availability zones so your whole product isn't taken down by a single data center fire. And then earlier I mentioned there are subnets. Subnets are within a VPC. It's how you split a VPC. Now, a subnet must belong to one availability zone. Okay? So there's a hierarchy here. All right? So one subnet corresponds to one data center. You can have multiple subnets in one data center, in one availability zone. That's cool. Okay? But you have to choose an availability zone per subnet. All right? And a subnet has to have a set of IP ranges. Okay? So your VPC has a set of IP ranges. You want to give your subnet some smaller group of IP ranges. Okay? Now we're getting into a little bit more of the detailed stuff. There are two key gateways you should know about: Internet gateways and NAT gateways. Okay? Internet gateways allow two-way traffic between a subnetwork and the internet. If your subnetwork has an internet gateway, that subnetwork is public. Okay? The internet gateway is what makes a subnetwork public. I had a really hard time understanding this when I started with the stuff because no one said that to me. Important. An internet gateway makes a subnet public. Really good to know early on. A NAT gateway allows outbound traffic and then the return traffic for that request. Okay? It does not allow stuff from the outside to start a request to the inside. Okay? So a NAT gateway makes a subnet private with internet access. But a NAT gateway still needs an internet gateway to actually get to the internet. Okay? The NAT gateway does like the making stuff private and the not allowing stuff to come in from the outside originally. Okay? But it still needs a way to actually get outside, and that's what the internet gateway is. So a common setup is you create a public subnetwork with an internet gateway, you create a private subnetwork with a NAT gateway, and allow the private subnetwork to talk to the public subnetwork. Okay? Is everyone tracking that? Cool. And each of these must live in a subnet. But you probably figured that out already. And lastly, there are security groups. Okay? Security groups are basically firewalls. Specifically, they are stateful firewalls. If you don't know what a stateful firewall is, don't worry about it. It's a firewall. If you do know what stateful and stateless firewalls are, it is stateful. It makes your life much easier. It's great. A security group must also belong to a VPC. Okay, so each VPC has its own set of security groups, and they define rules for what traffic can go in and out of a subnetwork. Not of a subnetwork, of many things. You can apply a security group to a server, you can apply a security group to a database, you can apply it to individual infrastructure items. And you can also apply multiple security groups. So you'll often see a security group for one type of traffic. So for example, you want to allow web traffic, and maybe you want to allow maybe FTP traffic, right? File transfer traffic. You might want to create two separate security groups, and then if you need a server that acts as both a web server and FTP, you just apply both to it. Okay, you can do that. All right. So now, you're not expected to memorize all of this by the end of today, right? This has been a lot for just the VPC part. But this will act as a good reference for you later on, okay? And we want to get you exposed to this stuff so that when we do the workshop portion where we're doing it together, you understand what's going on, okay? But any questions about this? Yeah, come on in. Hey, guys. Any questions? Yes?
When the gateways is usually set up, it's usually set it up for private network.
So the question was, for gateways, is usually set up for private network. If you go with the AWS defaults, they will set up private and public subnetworks for you. If you don't use the defaults, it's however you configure it. Okay? Yeah.
When you mention gateway, is that the same as a router?
Functionally, yes. For you more beginner folks who don't know networking too much, ignore this part. I'm going to go into the weeds a minute. So there's like 3 layers of access control and routing in AWS. They have ACLs, they have security groups, and then they also have routes. You can define routes. You can define explicit routes, and routes are applied to a subnet, which from a data center perspective is weird, right? Because normally you would do that on the router, right? But the subnetwork has an implicit router, but you don't actually interact with it. The gateways more act like an ingress-egress router, like the edge of your network, but they're not necessarily, they don't represent all of the routing capabilities of the network. Does that answer your question? Cool. Other questions? Cool. All right. So, what's up?
Can I give you a quick feedback?
Yes.
Like when someone asks you a question, could you quickly summarize first before answering it? Because I didn't really see what you were saying.
I'm sorry. I usually try to, and I must have forgotten. Thank you. So the question was.
Is a gateway equivalent to a router?
Is a gateway equivalent to a router? And the answer is kind of not really. It handles, it acts as an edge router for ingress and egress, but all the other routing functions like route definitions and access control lists and firewalls and all that are not covered in the gateways. Those happen at other parts of the networking stuff in AWS. Cool. Thank you. And thank you. Other questions before we move on to the next part, to the second service? Yeah.
It might be a silly question because I came in late, so excuse me first. But is VPC different from VPN? I'm still confused.
So the question was, is VPC different from VPN? I've never thought about that before, but it's kind of interesting. So VPN is short for Virtual Private Network, which in definition is very similar to a VPC, but in practice is very different. A VPN is, can be public or can be like on a public cloud provider like AWS, or it can even be in your data center. A VPN is something you have to configure yourself. AWS does have VPN services as part of its over 200 services offering. But a VPN basically kind of acts as a bridge between your network, which in practice is often a single computer, but can also be like your actual network, and some network out there, right? But it creates a tunnel between these two networks so they can act as one network, a virtual network spanning 2 actual networks. And basically that's how they're different, right? A VPN is kind of creating a virtual network over 2 separate networks. A VPC is a network in a cloud provider for an end user's use that is isolated from other networks. So they kind of have opposite intentions. A VPC is meant for exclusion. A VPN is meant for inclusion of the two target networks. Cool. Any other questions? That was an interesting one. Cool. All right. Well, so that's it for VPC stuff. A lot of information, but hopefully you got it. Next up, I'll hand over to Amra to talk about EC2.
Yeah. Hello again. So, EC2 is basically a virtual machines which is running in the cloud. So, we talk about the cloud providers just getting some big computer power and splitting the small computers and selling, actually renting to you. So EC2 is the basic concept of AWS, because almost all services actually running on EC2 on the back. So we call it elastic compute cloud. So why we call it elastic? Because it can be scalable and it can be run on demand as well. So, and also it's a virtual server, so it's not actually there's a one machine there and you directly to connecting it. It's there's actually one machine. It's not a serverless, but you actually connect a virtual layer of that machine. So, and also as I mentioned earlier, the all AWS services using EC2s as well. And you can also run EC2 images as a Windows, Linux, or macOS. The macOS part is not really common, and it's quite new actually. But sometimes for building CI/CD applications, which is building iOS application, we need to run a macOS agents. So that's why sometimes we need it, but it's really rarely. And also the machine learning images, the Amazon has some kind of image repository, and that repository there is a lot of different images. You can imagine that maybe you remember the old Windows CDs in the house, like you just buy on the store and put inside your computer, and you actually set up the Windows. So you can imagine that the AM is actually just the images, and also it can be scaled. So imagine that you have a one computer running your application, running your website, but you have some kind of campaign and you need more servers. So you can just put some load balancer, which is another service by AWS, and you can put more than one machine behind the load balancer, and you can just balance the load. So so do you want to do the
That was fast. Okay.
if anybody has a question about EC2s, because I'm actually planning to just showing things on AWS.
Okay.
But if anybody has a questions about EC2s, I can answer it. So it's basically a virtual machine which you connect remotely. Okay.
So for this part, the VPC stuff, much more theory. The practice is going to be kind of short. For EC2, much less theory, way more practice. Okay? So just to manage expectations here. So what I'm going to do is, hopefully everyone got on the Discord. I'm going to share the sign-in link for our AWS account. And then I'm going to share a list of users. And each of you needs to basically pick a user for yourself. Okay? And then with that user, you're going to log into AWS. And then we're going to go do stuff together. Okay? This is ambitious. We reserved over an hour to do this because it's going to be tough, because we're going to have to coordinate a bunch of people. That said, if you run into a problem, be loud, okay? We have 3 people to come help you, okay? So, if you're in the Discord, expect a link in just a moment. If I can figure out how to computer. Okay, so let me also just put this up here. So when you go to the link, I haven't sent it yet, but it'll look like this. Hopefully faster. There you go. So it'll look like this. You're going to enter the username and password here, okay? And you don't need to bother remembering the account. After this event, I'm deleting everything, okay? Because you're not going to spend all my money. And so let me send that link in the Discord. I'm going to send it in the Saturday Hangouts channel, okay? If I can figure out how to computer. Here we go. AWS sign-in link for intro to AWS event. And then the user list doc. So in the user list doc, please go ahead and once you have picked a number, go ahead and just check the box here, just so that no one else tries to use it, because otherwise you're going to cause trouble for each other. To get the password, you just click here and then highlight. Okay, I just didn't want to, in case someone's live watching the stream and they try to do crazy stuff. So yeah, please click that link in Discord and grab one of these accounts. I'm going to wait a few minutes. If you need help getting on the Discord, you need help figuring out this Google Docs stuff, please flail. You don't have to flail, but it's more fun. Yeah?
What are you doing? Can you give me a brief idea about
Oh,
what's going on?
I'm sorry, I skipped something very important. So what are we even doing? So thank you. I am too excited to get my hands dirty because I don't code anymore. So we've created users on AWS for you, that big giant user list, okay? We're going to have you log into the console, all right? And then together, we're going to create VPCs. You're going to create your own VPC, okay? Your own virtual private cloud. After we've done that, you're going to create your own server on the cloud, your own EC2 instance, okay? And that instance is going to be accessible from the internet. It'll be an actual public web server on the internet. Once we've done that, you're going to use a utility called SSH, or if you're on Windows, you're going to use something called PuTTY, where we're going to connect to that instance so we can do stuff with it. Once we have that server up and running, once we've connected to that server, we're going to install some web server software on it to make it a web server. And then you're going to access your web server from the internet to prove that it worked and to be super proud of yourself for putting something on the real internet. Does that make sense? What's up?
Yes. And then that web server looks something like a game.
Oh, no. This is just me making jokes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I gotta. The spreadsheet's not editable.
Yeah.
Oh,
Read all of it.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I was actually going to mention that because I cannot mark something as taken.
Right, thank you. I was wondering why that wasn't happening. All right, give me a moment. Thank you. Sorry I messed up.
We took number 18.
I took number 16.
Oh no, this is exactly what I wanted to avoid. No!
16 is mine. Please don't touch it.
I'm sorry guys, I messed up. I'm fixing it. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. It should be fixed now. Cool. Sorry about that. There we go. Man.
I hope the other people the password was.
Ah! Wait, what? How did that happen?
Yeah, somebody changed it.
I'm going to change the color.
What?
Change it, just highlight.
Wait, when you no, because these people haven't highlighted. There we go.
My bad.
Yeah, it's fine.
I plus 40. Oh, my God.
Is there a place I can charge my laptop?
Yes. Over here. 1 minute.
So, who knows what is Nginx?
It's a web server framework.
Yeah. Okay, 4 people. Okay. I just want to. Okay, I will explain it later. Who know what is Docker? Okay, more people. Yeah.
That's one unfortunate part about this venue.
You're preparing this for the hackathon.
Yes. Unfortunately, there's only 3 or 4 outlet spots in the whole place. So we're going to do a totally safe thing here.
Yes, very safe.
Totally safe. What could possibly go wrong? Come on, Pete. I'm sorry, guys. All right. Other questions?
Oh, someone, who's 6?
It's fine. The likelihood of someone stream sniping us is very low.
And also people just join the Discord and take the link as well.
Cool. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, they're only going to have about an hour of fun before I kill everything, so.
Is the account is new?
Sorry?
The account is new? Or old account? The AWS
It's
account?
old. But there's nothing on it. It's empty.
No, I mean, when you open the account first, there's some limitation for CPUs and memories.
No.
So,
There'll be no problem with this one. Alright, so. Alright, has anyone not logged into AWS yet? Okay. If you need help, please let me know. Yes.
So the account ID represents the VPC and everything else.
No, the account ID is like the AWS account. You can have many VPCs within the AWS account. So for recording purposes, the question was, you're good? Cool. The question was, is that account ID, so for example, this here, is that, let's not have that in photos, even though it's going to be a video anyway. But is that the VPC? No. And that's the AWS account. An account can have many VPCs. Yeah. Any other questions or issues? Oh, I never shared the YouTube streaming link. Crap. It's fine. The recording's more important anyway. And if people were subscribed, they would have gotten a notification.
everybody voted, right?
I think we got one over there still working on it. And we should be okay on time, so. Now, just to set expectations when we do the hands-on stuff, we're going to go very slowly. So, please be patient. But also, please ask questions. Downtime is a good chance to ask questions.
How many more minutes do we have for this? Right now, like signing it.
2 minutes.
Another question
Yeah, what's your question?
about is it
If you have a question, you can ask.
like it's about EC2, it's not about like this activity
Hmm.
you're
Yeah.
making. So it's about the scalability of EC2.
Hmm.
There's a running EC2 instance. If I want to like scale it
Like hundreds or something?
yeah, like a lot. Let's say, like 10 times its current capacity. And how does the, data in the running machine, like what does happen to the, like data that's already on the running instance?
Uh-huh.
Because like at the end of the day, it's all about, changing the hardware,
Mm.
for the users. It's just everything is virtual, but in reality it's about the digital hardware that we use. So like we're switching to different machines.
Mm. Yes. So for the stream, the question was, if you have an EC2 instance and you scale it up to many instances, how does that data get scaled, right? Or how does that data, what happens with the data? So each EC2 instance is a separate server, completely separate. Does not share memory, does not share any information with any previous instance, okay? So when you have, let's say you create an auto-scaling group, and you say start with one server, scale up to 30 servers maximum when the load of that server gets too high. When it starts that new server, it is a brand new server from scratch. Anything that was happening on the first server is irrelevant. Okay? There is no duplication of data. What you can do is there are kind of two options. As Amna mentioned, there's an AMI, an Amazon machine image, which you can use to kind of prepare data on that server. But again, that's only for startup. That's not for like runtime stuff. There's also init scripts, which after the server comes up, after the OS has started running, it runs a script. But again, that's also only a startup thing. It's not like a runtime memory thing.
Actually, I think my question wasn't specific enough in case, like you're not like increasing the number of servers.
Vertical scale.
Sorry?
Vertical scale.
Yes.
Yeah, adding more CPUs or more memories
Yes.
or more disk gives the
Yeah,
existing
more
machine.
capacity in just one server. What's going to happen? Like, are you migrating data or?
Yeah. Yeah, you have, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't used, I use Google now because of company things, not because it's better or anything, just, yeah. To my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if the question was, if you want to scale up vertically, if you want to add more CPU memory to a server, what happens? To my knowledge, that is not possible.
It's possible.
It is possible. I am wrong. Can you come talk about it?
So you can actually stop the machine and putting the resources and then restart the machine.
That's easy, but like just hypothetically, you shouldn't stop the machine. Is there a way to like vertically scale it without hurting data?
not-
And then you have to like constantly serving.
So, okay, not in EC2, but some other cloud providers have some options for that. It is like the same thing when you put some new disk in the physical machine. It's the same thing. If you are on the Linux operating system, you have to just put your new disk in your machine. So it's actually the same thing, the physical you touch. But if you mention about CPU changes, it's a little bit harder. So actually, technically you cannot do that, but also there are some options, highway virtualization options, that can change CPUs while you're running the machine. But it is not common thing, and it is a risky thing, and also it's some kind of special product.
So operationally, it's not really a good.
Yeah, obviously. So most of the time we don't make a vertical scale. We always do horizontal scale, because in virtual scale, if one of the nodes goes, the entire service is but in horizontal. By the horizontal means like duplicating servers. Like imagine you have 10 small servers or one big server. So using one big server is not a good idea. Using 10 small servers is a better idea, because you can lose one of the servers. And also there's a physical limitation that, for example, in AWS, as I know, the limitation of memory is 8 terabytes. I'm not sure, but it's kind of 8 terabyte thing. So you cannot put more memory than 8 terabyte to single machine. Yeah, but
That's
sometimes you need it.
that's still huge. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question though?
Yes, it does.
Cool.
So,
I hope the stream heard it. But basically, I'm going to summarize very briefly for stream purposes, because I'm not sure it's able to pick them up from there. Can you vertically scale an EC2 instance while it's running? You can scale the instance, but you cannot do it while it's running. There are ways to do it through virtualization technology, but it's generally not recommended. If you do need scaling, it's generally recommended to scale out rather than up. Out being adding more servers, up being making the server bigger. But you can theoretically shut down the server, increase the instance size, and then restart it. So yeah, okay. So everyone's, was that a okay enough summary? Okay. So everyone's logged into AWS now. Great. I should probably do the same. Let's, just because I'm paranoid.
Although you can trust us.
All right, and
Hello, 734. Can you put it in the Discord?
that's not going to help you anyway. But I should still be paranoid. Whoops. Eh? Oh no. Oh no. Might need to. What the hell? What the hell? Oh. I see what happened. I see what happened. Oh. Wrong password, I think. Yeah, if this doesn't work, we'll do yours. Let's do yours.
Yeah.
I just tested it last night and I already forgot my password.
It's better you to type because the keyboard is.
Oh, okay. That is an awesome password. Crap.
I still can't use the.
There we go.
keyboards, so.
Cool. All right, so your thing should look kind of like this, except for the recently visited part. Yes?
You cannot see.
Oh, ha! More like that. So it should look kind of like this, except for the recently visited part. Yes? Good? All right. Where are my notes? I super need notes for this. All right. So let me make this a little bit bigger. Yeah, is that a little easier for people to see? Thank you, Amra. All right, let's do it. So, there's a whole bunch of stuff here. Whatever. You want to click the search bar up top. And like I said, we're going to set up the VPC first. So you want to click the search bar, you want to type in VPC. Okay? And you'll see it's the first thing to come up under services. So you want to go ahead and click that because I speak English. And then you should see all this crazy nonsense. Can everyone get here?
Yep.
Better question, can anyone not get here? All right. I'm going real slow because I'm worried about losing people. If you cannot complete a step, please tell us. Because it's easier to fix one step than like 5. All right? So this is how you get to the VPC service. AWS is divided into a whole bunch of services, like we said. And so this list here, this is just the categories of services, okay? So it's very easy to get lost. Search is your friend, okay? So now we want to click Create VPC. Everyone's going to create their own VPC. Now you got a whole bunch of options here. Now this preview thing is amazing. They did not used to have this. It makes life way easier.
Oh, shit.
Right?
Sorry.
Can I talk about the regions first? Because I think everybody is.
Right. Thank you. Good catch. Thank you, Amna. So going back to here, there we go.
Right top corner.
So up here we have different regions. Okay. Now you probably want to pick Seoul. Okay. It doesn't really matter, but it'll make things a little bit snappier if you choose Seoul. Actually, yes. Please choose Seoul because it makes it easier when I have to clean up everything. So please choose Seoul as your region. Remember, a VPC must belong to a region. Okay? So please choose Seoul. Has everyone chosen Seoul? Thank you. Has anyone not chosen Seoul yet? Cool. All right. So then create VPC. Now, we want to make sure you select VPC and more. The reason is, you'll notice in this preview, it shows us the VPC, and then it shows us subnets. It creates the subnets for us. We only have so much time. I don't want to walk you through creating every single subnet, okay? So it creates a public subnet and a private subnet in 2 availability zones. Why 2 availability zones? Because availability zones correlate to data centers, and if one of them catches fire, we're screwed. Okay? So, 1 public, 1 private per data center, basically. Okay? Then routing tables, really fun and interesting if you like networking. If you don't like networking, they're a nightmare. If you don't understand what a routing table is, don't worry about it. If you want to learn more, talk to me and I will talk to you for 3 hours about it. Not just routing tables, but yeah. And then network connections. Remember we mentioned earlier the internet gateway and the NAT gateway and all that sort of good stuff. That's these. Let's not accidentally turn off power for anyone. Now we're going to change this a little bit. We have an internet gateway. Interesting. Where's the NAT gateway? We'll check. But it has an internet gateway and a VPC endpoint. Don't worry about a VPC endpoint. That's way more complicated than we're talking about today. Okay? So, the VPC and more does a lot of stuff for us. Okay? Now, under name tag auto generation, please, to make my life easier when I clean this stuff up, put it as intro AWS dash your name. Okay? So please do something like this. Has anyone not done that yet? Cool. All right. So, now the IP CIDR block. If you're not familiar with CIDR notation, it is a way to represent a range of IP addresses. I'm not going to teach you CIDR notation. It's a little bit interesting, but it's not too complicated, but more complicated than I want to spend now. So just put basically 10 dot and then put your user number. So 1 through 20, okay? So I'm going to do 21, right? But each of you picked up some user number, right? So do 10 dot that user number and then .0.0/24, okay? Yep. We could technically do 16, but meh, whatever. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It could be 16, it could be 24. Who cares? If you want to do 16, fine. Has everyone got that sorted out? Cool. Now you'll notice AWS is very helpful. It tells you how many IP addresses this represents. So if I do like 16, that's way more IP. Whoa, that's way more IP addresses, right? So that's a cool little thing. But again, we're not teaching CIDR notation today. You can go learn that on your own. So everyone got that entered? Good. So that's how many. That's which IP addresses and how many we're going to have for this VPC. And then you're going to scroll down. 2 availability zones is fine. 2 public subnets is fine. 2 private subnets is fine. Ah, that's why. So I like how they put the $sign. That's great. Yeah, because they cost money. Normally, if you wanted your private subnetwork to access the internet, you would want to put it in either 1 AZ or 1 per AZ. But we're not going to do that today because we're not going to do any private network stuff. For VPC endpoints, please choose none, just to make stuff simpler. Okay, it's also less cleanup I have to do later. Okay. Again, I'm not going to explain VPC endpoints, and then the rest of the defaults are fine. So has everyone got that? Cool. All right. Once you've done all that, you can hit Create VPC, and then you watch all the stuff turn green. Oh no. What's up? What? Really? Oh no. Is there really a limit?
Yeah. You guys, you have to go support some faster.
Oh no. For real? Is there not a way to?
I'll try a different region.
Okay. So if you encountered that error, please go to, let's probably Japan.
I'm going to Japan right now.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to go different ways.
Well, they're not gonna.
I mean, I haven't sold.
Yeah. So some
Okay, Japan works.
Japan works. I imagine the number of people that have failed is probably not enough to hit the cap.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't work, please switch to Osaka and try.
Oh, I did Tokyo, sorry.
Tokyo. Go to Tokyo.
He already did that.
Sorry.
He already created a PC.
Okay, that's fine. So yeah, Tokyo. Or I'll just check all of them. Screw it. That's fine. So Tokyo, Osaka, whatever. So if you hit the error, go to Tokyo. Again, intro AWS dash your name, 10 dot your number dot 0 dot 0. Can I show that again? I guess I can't. So so name. Okay, then try Osaka. All right. Does anyone need help, or is anyone still hitting errors? I'm surprised we hit Tokyo already too. That's funny.
Who already created PCs?
Okay. So, if you've gotten to this page, okay, you can click View VPC, and then ignore this error. That's just a permissions thing, and you'll be able to see your VPC, your subnets, your routing tables, and your internet gateway. All right. So is that good? Is everyone gotten to this point? All right. So let me take a quick look. Hey, what? No. There we go. So wait, it's only 4 per region by default? 5? 5, right? Because I can count. Man, that's lame. Okay.
Also, there's a CPU limitation as well.
There's a what limitation?
CPU limitation.
Got you. Okay.
So I was not accepting like 22 people.
Got you. Wow, looking good, guys. If you're still hitting errors, I guess go for Singapore or Sydney. Okay. Rob is all by himself. But yeah, good job, everyone. You created your first VPC. All right. So again, a VPC is where stuff lives. So when Amna walks you through to create your own EC2 instance, you're going to put it in your VPC, okay? Because stuff has to live in a VPC. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my part. Congratulations. And now I'll kick over to Amna to walk you through the process of creating an EC2 instance so you can set up your own web server.
So at the search bar, let's write EC2. And now we can see there's no instance running actually, only second in this region. So we have to create an instance. You can just say launch an instance. So I will explain part by part. Some parts can be more advanced, but if you have any question about any part, please ask me. So I will add an instance name. So then here we will talk about the images, right? So in that part we have to select an image. So AWS has their own Linux version, and also you can just select one of these as well, and also you can select the macOS or Windows as well, but today, I think Ubuntu will be better choice because I think more people have an experience about Ubuntu. So I basically select Ubuntu here, and then you can see there is a lot of version of Ubuntu. So if you need some specific version of some specific operating system, you can basically select the other versions. But I will go with the latest one. And then I can select the architecture here. So if you need a specific architecture, also you can just select here as well. But right now I don't touch it, so it will be a default. And at the instance type, so we have a different instance types in AWS. These are for actually different CPUs, different memories, and sometimes with the different GPUs. So this is the one of the part you have to be really make a research, because this instance types actually the one thing it's affect your bill. So you can see there's a lot of option here, and you can notice that it starts with T2 micro, and these are the classes of the instances. So there's a T2s, T3, and G4s. So you can just search about how much is the pricing and what they optimize it for. So some machines are optimized for memory usage, some machines are optimized for CPU, and also there's a some class one that which you can actually run GPUs like machine learning stuff, etc. You can also create some NVIDIA Titan something from here as well. I will go with the micro one, and as you notice, the pricing has a little bit different. So if you're running Linux, if you're running Windows, it can be change the pricing as well. And also if you notice, it is per hour, so it's not per month. So if you create an instance, it is pay as you go, and if you just run the instance for 1 hour, you only pay for 1 hour. If you run your instance for, I don't know, 1 month, you only pay for 1 month. So if you want to make an experiment with some machine, you can just put like $5 and run it the machine for 1 hour and delete it completely. But you have to make sure that the instance is not running, and sometimes some type of instances is deleted. And also maybe you can notice that this price are usually a lot expensive than the other cloud providers, especially the cloud providers like DigitalOcean, because actually these are the on-demand prices. So if you need to have a big startup company, and if you need a cost optimization, and if you are make sure that at least you have a 10 of servers, you can already pay 3 years or 1 year for 10 servers, and you can just get a discount. So after selecting this, we have to select a KPI. So the KPI is, I don't want to go details, but it's actually some kind of certificate file which you can use for connecting your instance. It is not actually, sometimes you don't need to choose it, but most of the time it's better you to create one. So I want everybody to create one with your name. So and then also the Windows user can download as a PuTTY. On the other users which using SSH can use as a tab. When you create the key,
really important, Windows users, make sure to pick PPK, please. Otherwise we'll have problems later. Sorry, just wanted to emphasize that.
okay, and also please make sure it's downloaded already, because otherwise you cannot have access to that file later. So please make sure that you download it. And maybe we can do a checkpoint here. Everybody download their files, right? Okay. Is there anybody has a problem? Okay. So the network settings. Okay. Right now we have a. Let's wait.
Question.
Yep.
Are we paying anything for the VPC, or is it just the?
Yes and no same time. If you have a traffic, you may have to pay for traffic. But if you have the VPC just running around without any traffic, without any NAT gateway or without any internet gateway, you actually don't pay. But if you have especially if you have a NAT, you have to pay. And you have to pay per gigabytes. Yep. And the NAT is really expensive, by the way. So here we can edit the network settings. So we can imagine that actually we create our own computers. So we select image, we select the CPUs and memories, and right now we are selecting the network. So in here you can see the VPCs you create earlier, and where's the VPC you created earlier? Isn't it different?
Oh, yeah, it's in Seoul. Yeah, switch to Seoul. Sorry about
Okay. Is it possible for me to use that one?
Just do it.
Yeah. So you can select your VPC, but I will select the default one. And you can select the subnet. So this means like which subnet you want to put your machine. So there's a one little thing here. If you put your machine inside the private net, and if you don't have any ways to connect the actual internet, it is possible to you not access the instance. If this instance publicly accessible, you have to put the public subnet, or you have to arrange some routing tables or some gateways to connect the internet with this instance. But if your machine is like a database or some kind of worker or something which does not need the public internet connection, you can always put in the private network. So I will select the public network here, if I can see. So which one is the public? Yeah.
Public one or public?
Which one?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. It's really hard to use the computer like while looking like that. So I will just go to the VPC and see which one is public. So this is the default one, right? Oh, actually, all of them connect the internet gateway. So it doesn't matter actually, but it's the same, right? D9. It's the D9. Okay, so I can just select one. And this is the if you enable this automatically give you a public IP address, which we will use to connect the instance. And here, this is the firewall settings, aka the security group. So this is the you can think that this is the actually Cisco firewall in front of your machine, and you have to select which ports you open for connection and which not. So basically the port for SSH is open, and as you can see, you have to select the source type, and this means like everywhere, because this notation just like all meaning the every meaning. So after selecting this, so as you can see, I didn't add a 80 port. So we will waiting that when we try to go to website, we will get an error, but we will fix it later. So let's go with the settings right now. And here we have a storage settings. So right now we are actually selecting the hard drive or SSD. So you can see there is a lot of option for drive. You can just use the cheap HDDs and you can use the SSDs. So I will go with SSD, and since this will be a demo, I think 8 will be enough for me. And there's some advanced details. If you want to, if you have a question about advanced detail, I can just tell you later. But let's launch the instance. Oh, yeah. We have to do it differently. Where's?
Launch Wizard -1. The security group name. Whoa, has to be unique.
Okay. Yeah, I cannot see here. So
Yeah. So up one more form up. Up. That one. Yeah, that has to change. So go ahead and put your name in this one. Okay.
Oh, no, I only create
Then it's fine.
yeah, so that's why I cannot create.
Yes. So if you hit an error, just edit instance configuration and put your name in the security group name.
It's better to see like that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm waiting here a little bit for everybody to get the screen. Is anybody has a problem?
For Amazon machine image, if you're using Windows operating system, you have to choose Windows.
This is the okay. This is the operating system which the virtual machine will use. So if you select the Windows, you have a Windows machine running on cloud. If you select a Ubuntu, you have a Ubuntu machine running on the cloud. I'm recommending to all to select Ubuntu because I will go with Ubuntu here. Any questions or anybody needs help?
So, real quick. So a couple of people are hitting an error saying that instance is not available in your availability zone. Different availability zones are different data centers, right? And so they have different actual hardware profiles at those. They have different computers at those different data centers. So some data centers don't have certain instance types because they don't have that much capacity. So if you hit that error, just choose a different availability zone. Just make sure it's still public. It has to be a public availability zone. If you hit an error where it says, hey, that instance type is not available, choose a different availability.
Or maybe you can change a different type of instance as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's only going to be a short time.
Does everybody create the instances?
Linux machine is usually the cheapest to run.
It's depend of the cloud provider, but for AWS, yes, the Linux is the cheaper to run. Because for running Windows machine, you have to pay license fee to Microsoft. So when you get a Windows machine from AWS, also AWS pays a license to Microsoft. So that's why running Microsoft agents always expensive than running Linux machines. But also there's some programs that if you have a license in your data center, you already have, you can also share with that license to AWS as well. Okay, so if everybody do, I can just, okay. Oh, which one is mine?
So you may want to click that link in the green part if you haven't. Okay.
So also you can just write the EC2 here at the search bar, and you can click the running instances, so which we can see our instances. And so I will just select randomly because I don't know which one is mine. So okay, let's look instance together. So we have to see the instance cases running. If you create your instances in a few minutes, it will take a few minutes. So if you see provisioning or like a some kind of thing, you can just wait a second. And also you can see, oh, this is Rob's, so this is not mine. Okay, so you can see the VPC which you select before, and you can see the subnet. Also there is a auto-assigned public IP address here, so we will use this later. And also if you go to the details, you can see the all details which you can just do earlier, or some of the details you can change. For example, in security, we will change this rule later. And also you can see the networking status and monitoring as well. So at the monitoring, you will see the CPU and memory usage of the instance, and you may use that the graphics, you may use that data to analyze the usage of the instance, and you can create auto scaling rules with that information later. So I think my instance is ready, so I will go to the connect section. In the connect section, we have actually a few options. I will go with the SSH client, and I'm talking for the Mac users. You can just run this command on the downloaded PAM file, and you can connect via SSH here. So I have a zero idea about the Windows because I usually don't use it, so maybe you can help me.
Let's get the Mac people sorted out first. If you don't know what this means, flail. Amra and I will come help you. Windows people, just sit tight for a minute. We're going to get the Mac and Linux people sorted out first, and then we'll cover the Windows side.
So, and also the Mac people has to write these commands in the terminal. I think everybody knows already, but
So does anyone need help on the Mac part?
anybody need help? Also, I can look.
What are we supposed to?
For Windows users, Linux users,
Windows.
you have to just connect with PuTTY. Yeah, if you're a Windows user, yeah, you have to download PuTTY. Which one? Yes, also you can do, but you have to first set up Session Manager first.
There is a way to just, like, if you click on connect, then you can just directly access the terminal.
With Session Manager. So also there is some other ways here, and with the EC2 Connect, but for this one you have to set up this, and I'm not sure if there's some limitation because we will use the same AWS instance, so it might be go some limitation stuff. So that's why we will connect with SSH. So any Mac person problem? Any Mac, Linux as well?
So everyone on Mac and Linux is connected to their instance now? Anyone not connected? Okay. Did you raise your hand? Okay. You got it? Yeah, you're in there. You got it. Anyone else need help? Everyone on Mac is good? You need help?
It's not Mac, by the way.
Will you transfer to? For Ubuntu, it's simply using Yes. We have the option. Windows.
Yeah, they're connected.
Any other Mac or Linux need help?
Yeah, you connect this, so.
That's 'cause you
And
use
Mac,
the-
Linux,
Oh, you put it in the private
install?
subnet.
Oh,
That's private IP.
I don't have a.
Right. So your instance is in the wrong subnet. So yeah, it's
No,
only
nice.
it's
This
in a private
is
subnet.
sweet.
Oh no, right. Oh,
This is for
oh, weird.
you know the files has a read permission for. This is for using the actual file. And the 400 is the, I'd say, one of the name of the rules or access levels. So 400 means like you just changing the access level of file.
So every time I access this instance, I need to read the key file.
Yeah, you need a key file. Or you can create another account user inside the machine and connect machine with the username and password as well.
Oh, it's using the password.
Yeah. But for the first connection, you have actually 3 ways. One of them is the session manager, one of them is your SSH, and also AWS has some semi-console stuff as well, but using SSH will be a better choice for us because we use the same AWS account with 22 people.
So I remember using AWS before, but I just connected very easily, like cloud automatically.
Yeah, but a bunch of people is trying to set up a station manager. Probably AWS won't work out.
Because it's many people, it's different.
So because for many AWS there's some kind of security policies. If the account is not using, and one time you can just put it to 20 people, and the AWS thing it's some kind of hacking or something.
There we go.
And just mock the account and call you and ask you the person who doing that. So for the bunch of people using same AWS account, actually sometimes we have to raise a support request.
That's why you use VPC.
Yeah, that's why you cannot create a VPC because the limitations actually is for only beginners. If you really need a more five VPC, you can just raise a support request and you can ask more than 5 VPC as well.
Right. Anyone else on Mac or Linux need help?
Anyone needs help? Mac or Linux?
What is Bash? Oh.
I have a question. Is it possible after generating instance, I can also
After the creating the instance, so I don't think so. You can upgrade and update from inside of the instance, but outside of the instance, for example, you cannot change a Linux instance to Windows machine. You have to just separate the hard drive and create a Windows instance and put the hard drive there.
So you open the instance and then you have the issue with your specific operating system, you have to just change the
If it is still Ubuntu, you can change another version of Ubuntu.
oh, it's possible.
Yeah, it is possible, but if you want to deploy a different operating system, you have to create instance from scratch. Imagine that we had a USB stick at like I don't know 10 years ago, and we just push a F4 button and start meshing from BIOS and set up operating system. So it's the same thing. For
Any
Windows
other-
users.
Yep. All right, Windows user time. All right, Windows people, wake up. If you're on Windows, follow along now. So, hopefully you have installed Putty already, as from the meetup event instructions. If not, I'm going to run through it super fast, but I'm not going to wait for you. So, you could just search for Putty, P-U-T-T-Y. You'll see this result as the top one. You can click Download Putty, and then you can choose the installer for either x86, 64, or for ARM, depending on what your computer is. It's probably the x86. Yeah, and then you can install it. But I'm going to assume that you have it installed already. So we're going to hit the Windows key and we're going to type Putty. And oh, I don't have a.
Yeah, because I downloaded PAM file.
Yeah, give me a second. I'll fix it. Or not fix it. Yeah. Sorry guys, give me just a second. Okay, that should be good. So, you should have something like this. Everyone got this? Everyone got Putty open? They got this? All right, great. So now, what you're going to do, this host name here, you're going to copy this, and you're going to paste it there. Okay, so far so good?
Go back a little bit, sorry.
I was just clicking copy here, and then pasting it here. All right. So far so good? All right, don't hit connect yet. We're not ready. Everyone got that? So now, oh, it's been so long. We're going to click, I think, data? Yes.
Port is 22, right?
Port is 22.
Port is 22.
We're going to click data. You're going to set the username to Ubuntu. Okay?
We assume that everybody using Ubuntu, by the way.
Yeah.
If you choose a different image, well, I'll set up an EC2.
Yep, okay. And then, everyone's got that? Then you're going to click SSH. Sorry, you're going to click the plus next to SSH.
Why is Windows so complicated?
Because Windows.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, if you're doing this on Windows, you should look into Windows subsystem for Linux. It's really nice, but we're not covering that today. That's too much. But there's really nice online guides, and then you can become a Linux person. Then you can be like, why is it so hard on Windows?
You can cover something. Or
Oh man, again? maybe. So back in Putty, expand SSH, choose off. Okay, you should see this. Is everyone here? I'm going real slow because I don't want to lose anyone. What's up? I cannot make it bigger. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't make it bigger because Windows. Actually, more because like whoever made Putty, like it's a tiny side project. It's not like a big corporate thing. Huh? Yeah. Oh. I'm not great at Windows either. All right. So, click the browse button. That file you downloaded. One second.
If you go under, you can see the credentials on the bottom.
Wait, what?
I don't have a browse button, but if you press the plus on off, there's like the credentials part.
Oh no, I'm using an old version of Putty. Wait, they updated Putty? Okay.
It's like updating Windows.
Right? Who updates that? Okay, well, click credentials and then click browse. And then choose that key file. Yep. And then you should see like this .ppk file. Okay? So you choose that. So we set up the host name, we set up the user, and we set up our key. Do a little prayer. And now hit open. You're going to get this warning. It's normally with secure shell SSH, you keep track of like an identifier of that server to make sure it's the same server to make sure it is the server you're expecting to connect to, because you're entering a secure channel. You don't want to connect to some random server that you don't know what it is. In this case, we created the server, we know it, we trust it. You can just hit yes. Oh, wait, what? You should not hit this. Sorry? No problem there? Okay. Everyone else is good? It's a me problem. Huh? You have a problem?
It's a Windows problem.
Seriously, where to put it? Why did you go over here? And now all the information is gone. Yay, Windows. Okay, anyway.
It works for me using EC2-user.
Really? Ah, but is your server Ubuntu? If your server is AWS Linux, then it would have been EC2 user.
Yeah, so that's fine. I'm not sure if you haven't deleted the key.
Yeah.
Also not popping there.
You have to add the new key to. So you cannot download the key. You have to create a new key, and then you have to add the key to the instance.
Yeah, but there's a problem. The host name. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I can make this.
No, the VPC, creating the VPC. I'm wondering where your VPC is.
Right now we
Yeah,
have
and the Peter, right?
private credit card.
No, that was the EC2 instance. I'm wondering about the VPC. Wait, did you create a VPC?
I'm not sure what.
That's the part that I covered in AWS.
Did you just skip?
Okay.
Did you just?
You can use the default one as well.
We're just going to use the default. I'll sign public IP.
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. So, oh my god. I'm having trouble with this one. That's all good. That's all good. Here we go.
And yes, we have to select the file is how it was released. You don't need the file, right? Yes. Is it? I cannot see.
It's different.
It's because you did open. That's why. When you choose open, it puts it in a temporary folder.
And you put the ODNS link first,
The temporary folder is a folder that gets cleaned up by the system.
and then go into that.
I just.
No, that's well, it's an old Windows thing. Most browsers don't do that.
It's not cool.
Always better because of the name. Okay, I can look at you as well.
Wait. Huh?
Oh, you're the okay. So second one. So what was the problem? Because problem is connected, so maybe the set is wrong, so that's why it's not connected.
We chose the wrong one. Wait, no, we chose PDP. I think you might not be having the same problem I'm having. You should download a new version, the updated version. Big sucks. Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's not like if, okay. So it's a instance or like it's not this instance. So the name is signed, but it's not a big one because it can be changed. The name, the front forms, like this. Every time the same one plays, but it will be
Yeah, this is what
so it's better when you use it as well.
this isn't worth trying.
Oh, yeah. Which load balance are you using? Like AWS load balancer or Linux? AWS load balancer. So AWS load balancer has keywords, then load balancer, application load balancer, disk load balancer. So in application load balancer, you need a target group for connecting to your load balancer and now your containers. So there is a better option.
Alright, does anyone else need help on Windows?
Yeah. If you want, I can help you.
So everyone is connected to their instance.
Okay.
Okay. Good. Sage mount 600. Ooh. 400, that's one.
I hate Windows.
I'm sorry. Right click. Hey. Huh? But you just set the permissions.
400?
Yeah,
Like
you-
here?
You just set the permissions. It says it's 555. Oh. I got you.
It's because it's on Windows. So let's.
Okay, so I also connect the server. Just try quick commands. Okay, so I will check if can I go with sudo. Yeah. So okay, I'm connected the server which we create via SSH. Now we know our server is actually running in somewhere in the cloud, but right now we have to set up something, then we can see actually if it is running or not. So in this part you may just set up your own application, but for going basic, I will go with Nginx. So before setting Nginx, I will go with let's update before. So I write sudo apt-get update. So everybody's right? I will just open the command again. You may see what I write. Everybody right? Any problem? Okay. So I hope this is the yeah. So I will set up Docker. I will just quick stop, and you can see what I write here. I just installed Docker. This is just a basic command.
You press yes
Yeah,
there?
I will say yes, but I'm just waiting everybody to go this step. So I will say yes. So I will run a help command for see if the Docker is running. So we all have to see after writing sudo docker help or -- help, we have to see the Docker help options. I'm awaiting in this point. Two people just do. Anybody needs help?
Windows Plus to magnify
Windows Plus.
or expand plus.
Ah,
Just move the mouse.
okay. So this is the command. Is everybody write this one? Okay. So right now I have to pull the Nginx image. If you don't know what is Nginx and what is Docker, I will explain it later if you ask me as a question. But it's basically we are trying to set up an example application so we can make sure that our EC2 instance is working fine. So for installing Nginx, I have to pull the image from repository. So for this one, wait. Because in the default, if I don't write sudo, Docker doesn't have a permission as a user.
No, I mean, when you're just installing Nginx directly, it's easier.
Okay, if you want, you can install Nginx.
Is it?
I always use with Docker, but if you know,
Okay,
yeah.
It's fine. Is it like clicking things? Just because I'm worried about time.
yeah.
Okay.
If I see the yeah.
Okay.
Anyone need help?
So I basically pull the Nginx, but yeah. So everybody has to see the Nginx is already downloaded.
There's a typo in name.
So right now this command will be run the Nginx. It's actually not zooming. Oh, yeah. So the name is not important here. You can just do anything. But the thing is, it's actually running the Nginx. So after I hit that command, I will see an image ID. So it means the container is already running. So if I curl my local host, so the curl is just to basically see if something is running on there. So I can see that the HTML file is saying me that it's already, yeah. So right now the thing is, we actually create a VPC, then create an EC2 instance, connect inside the EC2 instance, we run an update command, and then we set up a Docker, and we pull Nginx and run it. So we can see the Nginx website, the example website inside the Nginx is actually running here. So, but it's a question for you. Can we access from outside? No, right? Why? Because, this is actually using the 80 port, HTTP port. But our instance in the security group does not allow to use the 80 port. So let's go to here and check if we can access from public IP. And we will see that we cannot actually access it because there is a security firewall interrupting our traffic. So we have to add a new rule to security group. So I'm at the instance page, I will go to the security tab, and I see my security group here. And also, you may see the rules. So we basically have two types of rules, inbound and outbound rules. Outbound rules for your machine to the internet, or your machine to outside. But if you look the inbound rules, it means like the outside to your machine. So we can connect the machine with SSH, because you can see the SSH port is publicly open to all internet. So that's why we can connect. So the logical action is we have to add the data port to our security group, then we may access the machine. So I will click my security group, and I will edit the inbound rules, not outbound, inbound. And here I will add a new rule. So, and I need a source. So source means where the traffic is coming. If you still running an internal application, the traffic can come from your VPN address or your front-end server or some designated area. But if you want to open this website to whole public internet, you have to select these CDR blocks. And when you save it, now your machine will access the internet.
What was the source?
The source is the CDR notation for everywhere. You can see the source here. So this is the CDR notation. Yeah. But as I said before, if you want to just create a specific server for specific stuff, you may change this one. Highly recommended. But if you want to publicly open everybody, you can just use it. So end of the day, you have to see this. Where is it? I think it was running, right? Because I remember that I see Nginx.
It might be trying HTTPS. So click and then hit the left arrow.
Yeah.
And sometimes it defaults to HTTPS. You change HTTPS to one.
I can let's see. Am I changed? Yeah. So you can see the Nginx.
Does anyone need help?
Who see this page? Oh, wow. Yeah. So who need help?
Please open the page where we adjust the code.
Sure. This one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you have to add a new rule. And you have to select HTTP here. It's HTTPS. It's HTTPS, not HTTPS. HTTP. Or you may select the constant TCP and write your own. And you have to select the source, which is that CDR block for everybody, this one. Yeah. And when you save it, you have to access. Anyone needs help? Yeah. And we have to add the rule. HTTP, not TCP, HTTP. And you have to select the source. Yeah, you can also select here. Anywhere at the info, yeah. It's the same serial application. You can say rule here, yeah. And right now, you have to see the NLS when you go to the public website. root your instance. And this IP should be running right now.
Secure.
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah. Nginx is running. Yeah. Also, you can use AWS as a framework as well. If you have a like simple content application, also you can use AWS as well. But if you have your own package, you can export that. For load balancing, and sometimes you use for hosting some small complex applications. But mainly for load balancing services. So you have to redirect your money to the package, and then you can just use it. Because your website is actually running on your machine, so you only have to forward your DNS to the site address and you can use it.
When you do it, you have to. That is your.
No, you don't need it. If you're running you have to or install application and some specification or you need some settings. You may need it, but generally you don't need it. This is the time of the application. You have it.
Anyone else need help?
Question? Okay, so in general, anybody has any question about EC2, VPC?
How do we add the HTTPS? I try to secure it all, playing around with that.
Because your application inside the EC2 does not listening that port. So if your application listening that port, you can add. Actually, this is only for the gateway. You only open the door here at the port settings, and then your application has to be listen that port. So Nginx at default only listen for HTTP. You may configure the Nginx, or you may just run your own application which that settings.
Any other questions? Should I close it? Okay. So thank you, everyone. Congratulations, you ran your first web server on Amazon, so good job. However, I apologize. I am going to destroy all of them while we're at dinner. But
Should we terminate our EC2 instances?
yeah, if you know how to terminate it, go ahead and do that. It would just save me some effort. If you don't know how to do that, or if you're just not feeling like doing it, don't worry about it. But if you wanted to go set up your own Amazon account and set up your own instance, you can do that. Do be aware that this stuff does cost money, so be prepared for that. There is a free tier, and you can go read about the free tier. You get 1 year of usage for a small amount of server computing power. So you can do that if you want. But beyond that, you usually need to pay. So yeah, let's go ahead to the last slide then.
I had a quick warning about
Yeah.
launching our instances. Like he's mentioning about money, take this very, very seriously because as soon as you have a public IP, someone will find it and someone will snap it.
Yep.
So you will be bankrupt very soon because AWS doesn't have any limit by default or very large limit, so your bill will be $2,000, $3,000.
Yeah. And also you have to just look the pricing of the instance type before you're actually running. And don't forget to terminate your instances, because you can just log in the instance and stop the instance from inside, but it's still creates a cost for you. So you have to just terminate your instance on the console.
So just a personal story relating to this. The last time I ran a class like this in the States, I set up 20 servers like this, and I forgot to turn them off for about a month, and I had to pay AWS $4,000. Yeah, be very careful.
Did you pay?
Yeah, I use the servers. Yeah,
I think you have to terminate it, right?
you have to terminate it.
Permanently
Yep.
delete it.
But
Please-
also-
please terminate it.
Yeah, but also
every second counts.
But also to that point, make sure it is secure because other people will abuse your server if you do not secure it. If you need help securing it, talk to us in Discord. We can help you.
Yeah, I also would tell them that speaking of security, it's really important that you keep your personal credential data just to yourself because, for example, BG was just demonstrating, so he exposed his account ID, which is the 12-digit number, I think. But then, when you guys are not really used to dealing with this kind of things, by accident, it often happens that you just push your commits to GitHub, with your personal credentials included, and then there will be always really bad actors who are always looking out for such credentials because these people often want to abuse your account in mining their cryptocurrencies, which I suspect happened to my account as well. So last month in October, I got charged about $100.
Oh, that's pretty
which,
cheap.
Was
It's pretty
paid
cheap.
from the credit, so I was safe, but it was a big lesson for me as well because I did push my access key and secret access ID something to GitHub by accident, and I didn't. But you can destroy it and then get a new set generated. But if you forget to do that, the crypto miner will come after you use your account.
Also,
Yep.
you mentioned about the credit. So there is a free credit for Trail. It's for 1 year, I guess, expiration time.
Yep.
So I don't know how much, but it is enough to explore around the EC2 and other services. So you may get the credit. And also, if you have a startups, AWS has a startup program. So you can get $5,000 to, $100,000. So the credit you can use at the AWS freely. If you need any support about the startups running on AWS, you can just connect me on Discord.
Cool. So,
If I were to try this on my own, free tier, would I have to pay money, or is the project small enough that it's covered by the free tier?
it should be covered by the free tier, but double check. We're talking about money.
Yeah.
You want to double check.
Only the instance, not the IP address.
Right.
So it means that $5 per month.
Thank you.
Sorry, could you say that again?
So the IP address you will use if you use a static IP address, it will $5 per month. So the free tier only covers the instance itself. And if you just eligible to free tier, and if you have a static IP address, you still have to pay $5 for IP address.
Thank you.
And the general information, the instance which we use here is usually 20 to 30 US dollar per month if you're not eligible to free tier.
Thank you. Other question? Or does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Other questions? Cool. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We have additional resources linked in the slides. I'll share the slides in Discord pretty much now. But thank you again. You're already in our Discord, but just for purposes of recording, you can email us at these email addresses, and you can catch us on Discord there. Also, if you want, now running this event doesn't really cost us anything thanks to Lunit, but we are going to go out for dinner afterwards. So if you want to contribute to the cost of dinner, you can donate at this information. It's also in the meetup thing. Don't feel obligated to. And if you don't have income right now, please do not donate. You should be spending your money on more important things. But again, thank you very much, everyone, for coming. We hope you had a good time, and have a good rest of your evening, and hope to see you in the future.